I am live. I have to continue. It's so exciting. I'm reading Out of Time, Out of Mind. It is Joan Grant's far memory book. No, it is not her far memory book. It's a book about her life. It's an autobiography. And she explains how she came to write The Winged Pharaoh and Life as Carola and all the books she's written. Because she had insight into her previous incarnations. And this is a wonderful book explaining how she got to where she became so famous for. She lived in 1907 till 1989, and I am now at chapter 2 of the 5th part, which is the last part of this book, and this one is entitled The SCARAB. Leslie went to shoot at Cullen for 3 weeks when I took Gillian and Gin to Hayling, and then we all went to Hurtwood. The evening we arrived there, Daisy, as soon as I was alone with her, told me that she'd had a second operation a fortnight after I went to Scotland. She had not told me at the time because she knew that I would rush south to be with her, and she considered that I ought to be staying with Gillian and Leslie. She was only telling me now because I would soon be sure to hear about it from Alfie. On no account are you to let her know it was cancer, she said firmly. The word terrifies her, and she fusses over me far too much already. If she asks you what you think was wrong with me, you must reassure her, and if necessary, tell her a flat lie. That is one of the occasions when a lie is ethical. Of course I will. I'll do anything. Then don't worry about me. The most tiresome thing about this wretched disease is that it scares one's friends so much. You can feel the poor dears seething with a question they daren't ask because they don't want to hear the answers. It's a great comfort that I can be honest with you. What exactly did you have done? As you insist on details, the surgeon took off my right breast. She smiled. I never had much of a bust, so a little padding stops me looking loop-sided. He's confident that it has made a thorough job this time, so there will be no reoccurrence. Now, we will go and look at the fan gardens, and we will not mention my dreary operation again. Even though she could no longer walk fast and far, her slower pace was not laborious like an invalid's, but as though she had no need to hurry now that her garden had reached maturity. Instead of planting, pruning, weeding together as we used to do, we sat talking in the sun by the lily pond, or in the shelter of one of the pavilions that, with their stone pillars and moss-grown pantile roofs, their pottery jars and Moorish tiles made parts of hardwood, seem more Portuguese than English. For there was a Portuguese garden which Daisy also cherished, the Palace of Montserrat at Sintra, which belonged to her mother's family. I never heard her complain, but I knew that sometimes she found inactivity almost unbearable. She might suddenly remember having sown some new hybrid primulas in the bog garden at the foot of the most precipitous of the paths. They should be in flower now, Joan. We must decide whether they should be left to self-seed or be transplanted nearer the Japanese maples. She would rise purposefully from her chair and then sit down again, saying ruefully, "Perhaps it's a little near lunchtime to go so far. I puff if I hurry uphill, and it worries Alfie." On wet days, instead of working in the rain, her hands strong in the rich, moist earth, while water dripped off the brim of her gardening hat, she was confined indoors. Alfie did not consider talk, or books, or even plant catalogues sufficient entertainment, and so insisted on card games and jigsaw puzzles. We had painstakingly finished a jigsaw puzzle of 500 pieces in 2 days, when Leslie suggested I should do some psychometry. Yes, do, dear, said Elfie encouragingly. Some of the old Portuguese furniture might be interesting. Have you got anything Egyptian? Asked Leslie. I don't think so, began Daisy, but Elfie interrupted. There are some Egyptian things in the attic. I found them last week when I was going through old trunks for a jumble sale. There were 2 saddlecloths and some moth-eaten rugs and a bunch of scarabs, which belonged to Bunny. I don't remember Bunny having any scarabs, said Daisy doubtfully. Well, he did. They're in a small cardboard box labelled in Papa's writing, given to Bunny in Egypt by my shikari, 1892. But what were we doing in Egypt in 92? Are you sure you're not confusing it with the time we went up the Nile on a dahabeja, and you insisted on going to see Karnak by moonlight and had hysterics? Elfie giggled. How well I remembered that. I thought the ghost of some wicked old priest had grabbed me. I tried to run, but couldn't move. Goodness, how I shrieked. Was it a ghost? I prompted her, for Leslie's benefit, as I knew the story. It was my corset strings. They had come undone and must have been trailing behind me until they got tangled round something. I struggled frantically and my corset got tighter and tighter until they nearly cut me in half. But that was years after Bunny was given the scarabs. In 92 we spent a month in Egypt on our way home from India because Papa suddenly decided that he wished to shoot quail. Thousands of the poor little things he shot. I was so sorry for them and felt quite guilty when I ate them, but they were so delicious. I wonder why I don't remember about it, said Daisy. Because you were having mumps in a hotel in Cairo. I suppose it was Shepherd's, if Shepherd's was built then. Bunny and I went with Papa in case we caught it. Oh, I remember the mumps, but I thought mumps was in Simla. Chickenpox was Simla. Such a panic there was too, as they thought at first it was smallpox. Why did the shikari give the scarabs to Bunny? He can't have been very interested in Antikas then when he was 6. He adored his scarabs, surely you remember? It was really because he adored the shikari, of course. He was a dear old man and implored Papa to let him come back to England with us because he wanted to stay with the little Pharaoh. He always called Bunny the little Pharaoh and deferred to him in everything. Elfie trotted upstairs to fetch the scarabs, and I wondered if Daisy was hoping that I would get scenes of Bunny's childhood from them, or if it could distress her if I did, or if it would distress her if I did. I had never quite realized how much she missed him until the previous armistice day. I was alone with her in the little house overlooking Chelsea Embankment when the maroons sounded for the 2-minute silence. She stared out of the window and I saw tears rolling down her cheek as she whispered, "Oh, Bunny, how much longer must I be without you?" It was the only time I ever saw her cry. There were 5 scarabs and Leslie put them in a row on a card table beside me. 2 were white, 1 green, 1 dark brown, and the 5th was turquoise blue. "Which do you want to do first?" he asked me while he sharpened a pencil. "The blue one last," I said instinctively. "I don't mind about the others." The 2 white scarabs were genuine but of no interest. They were probably new when they were included in the mummy bandages. The green one had been charged as an amulet by an efficient priest in the reign of Tho'mas the First, to prevent a little boy from having nightmares, or rather from remembering his dreams too clearly, which would appear as nightmares to the mind of a child. "It worked too," I said as I put it back on the table. "Unfortunately, it was specifically made so that the virtue would only last for 6 years, so that it would not interfere with a boy developing dream memory when he was old enough to do so. A pity, as otherwise it might have come in handy for Gillian if she starts being frightened like I used to be." "How much less dull going to church would be if clergymen believed in magic," said Elfie feelingly. The brown scarab showed that temples where priests are but men without virtue wearing priestly robes. Also, existed in the reign of Ramoses II and had been purchased for 5 she-goats in milk and was supposed to be a protection against a plague of flies. The flies were a little larger than bees and had 2 white bands on the thorax. Flies which, although they do not bite nor sting, are so numerous that they cover a sleeping man like a black pall and smother him to death. And if he opens his mouth to speak or to eat, they crawl into his mouth and choke him. "Try to get some more out of that one," said Leslie. "You may be seeing one of the 7 plagues of Egypt. It is probable that Ramoses II was the pharaoh of the Exodus." I put the brown scarab to my forehead again, but all I could get was a feeling of fury at being so gullible that I had parted with 5 of my best goats for the scarab, which was only a scarab of less use even than a dung beetle against the plague sent by a foreign magician. "Sorry," I said, "I can't give any more." The man only kept it for 2 days and then flung it on the midden in disgust. "Do you want to do the last one? Don't go on for too long and give yourself a headache," said Liz Daisy. I assured her I had plenty of energy left, so she put it into my hands, the turquoise blue scarab. The moment it touched my forehead, I knew it was warm and lively. "This one is much older than any of the others. It was taken from the mummy of a priestess. Leslie, do you remember the underground tomb we went to at Saqqara? The one with 3 drop stones in the entrance passage to the inner chamber, shaped like Noah's Ark? It was a tomb. It was a place where rememberers, priests of Anubis, were taken for their initiation. The place I am seeing is not the one we went to, but is a little like it." I broke off for a moment as I was shivering with cold, though the room was warm, so Alfie covered me with a rug. "This did not come of a mummy. I thought she was a mummy because she's dressed as though ready for burial, for this symbolizes that her spirit is as free to travel in search of wisdom as though her earth body had released it." For an hour I described what I was seeing, how a girl called Sakita was taken from the temple of Atet to undergo the ordeal of initiation, during which she must leave her body for 4 days and 4 nights, returning at the end of the 4th day to dictate to a scribe what she had experienced. Then the degree of identification deepened. "Though I am alive, I must be as the dead. No longer can my body be unto me a friendly refuge, to which I can fly when the powers of darkness are too strong. Nor can I return to my body to protect it, when the evil ones would turn it into a prison of pain. How shall I be as a beacon light among the people when my heart is beating as though it would leap from the cage of my ribs? Shall I ever see the sun again? Will my body ever obey my will gently and pleasantly again? Shall I be a Hecate, who failed yet did not die, and sits in the courtyard with blind eyes and wet sagging lips, trapped in a body that only flies can bear to touch? Soon they will put the mask upon my face. My eyelids must not flutter. If my body is not beneath my will, how can any of them who see me believe my speech, even though it be the mirror of the gods? I can feel the bolt tilting. It has left the water. They are lowering it down the shaft. It is very cold in the passage. I can feel the darkness through my closed eyelids. I feel the mask upon my face. Soon I shall hear the drop stones fall. Now everyone has gone. One by one they fall. It is as though I were living in a great gong. The falling stones shatter the stillness, but soon it will return. I must quiet the beating of my heart. It sounds in my ears loudly, so that I cannot hear the voice of my wisdom. Be still, my body. Be still, and not unworthy, for I would make you an instrument worthy to receive that which I shall be told. I must remember clearly. A long way away a voice was calling my name. No, not my name, someone else's name. "Joan, come back, Joan!" A quiet voice, but insistent. Reluctantly I opened my eyes. Leslie was leaning over me, briskly rubbing my hand, from which she had removed the scarab. "Come back now. You have been out quite long enough." Memories started to slide away from me like bright water flowing into a tunnel. Did I talk clearly enough for you to hear? Did you write it down? It was very important what I was doing, important to me, but I can't remember. You need not try to remember. I've got it all written down, although part of the time you were going very fast. The blue scarab was lying on the table. There's more, so much more in it, I said, still not quite awake. Please, can I do some more of it after dinner? You have done quite enough today, said Leslie firmly. He looked at his watch. You have never been out so long as you have today. Today was the 13th of September, 1936. I do these one after the other. It is the 8th